episode 72. It's a live episode, and it's 20 minutes till midnight. Still technically Sunday, but not Sunday morn. And I needed to get something on air. I wanted a bit of a podcast, with apologies to my Patreon listeners. It's a live broadcast. I'm in bed and I was just testing the microphone on my headphones, and hopefully this is coming out okay on your various listening devices and things like that. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who likes what I'm doing here at the podcast, especially, like I mentioned, the Patreon supporters, people who are pleased enough with what I'm doing and trust me enough to actually contribute money towards the podcast. It don't generate a lot of income from it, in fact very little, so I'm trying to create more content, as much content as I can. The problem that I have is that mentally I want to edit and produce the best podcast episodes that I can, and I do have a whole heap of sound effects and things that I can use now. I can do a whole heap of stuff, but I haven't been able to do a whole lot because I'm currently working. I'm doing 10-hour shifts and coming home, and I'm not really in the mood to create, the kind of relaxation kind of atmosphere that it's necessary to produce whatever it is that I do here. So I hope that for those of you who are listening to this specifically for relaxation and to unwind and slow things down mentally and to overcome anxiety attacks and things like that, you'll still get that. I'll go into a little bit of that now, but I wanted to reintroduce the show for new people first. I hope the sound quality is okay. I really do. I've got no way of really knowing until I play this back. I did do a test recording. It seems to work okay. So, first of all, what we're going to do is you just sit back and relax, and quite literally take things easy like a Sunday morn. You might be sitting in your favourite armchair, couch, sofa, or even maybe with a drink or whatever your poison is. I'm umming and ahhing through this because this is a live broadcast. I'm just going off the top of my head. You might be in your bed, just trying to get some sleep. So what we're going to do is going to shut our eyes just for a second and just start slowly breathing in through the nostrils and then out through the mouth. In, out again, in and out. And you just keep doing that. You don't need to focus necessarily on your breathing, but just listen to the sound of my voice. And we're going to let go of all the dramas and all the nonsense that's happened the week before, all the he said, she said stuff, all the politics and religion, and all the things that divide us, points of view, all the horrible stuff. You find out that your friends on various social media aren't necessarily your friends. They don't have the same political views as you, and all this other stuff. You just let all that go, and you're just breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. If you are sitting at a kitchen table or somewhere where you have access to an open Word document or a notepad, like quite literally a notepad or a book or something, feel free to take notes. If anything that I say or do inspires you to do better with your life, or it triggers a memory or something that an idea, for example, you want to invent something or do something, or apply for another job, or go somewhere else, go on plan a trip overseas, or there's a million things that you can do with the time that I'm presenting here to you. This is not me telling you how to live your life like other podcasts often do. This is about giving you the space to give yourself permission to do whatever it is that you want to do. There's a whole heap of things that I wanted to talk about in this particular podcast, but I don't actually have the time to do that. I don't have my notes in front of me. It's incredibly unprofessional, but I want to say thank you to everybody that's actually given me feedback and let me know that they actually do listen to the podcast. And once again, I have no control over the quality this time. There's no real editing. It's a live video. It's a live podcast, not a video. Breathing in, breathing out. I've just done a 10-hour day at work on Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to everybody who is a father. And I hope you're enjoying your burnt toast and aftershave and socks and all the usual Father's Day stuff. So I need this for myself, just to relax and unwind. If you are a meditator, maybe focusing on the pineal gland and that, just doing what you need to do. Maybe you're into hip hop and you're listening to the Hilltop Woods, and there's a song called The Nosebleed Section, which is really, really good, very upbeat, very poppy, hip hop, and it's made here in Adelaide. It's actually quite an older song. The Hilltop Woods must have earned a lot of money because they've become a bit more mainstream over the years, and they're brilliant rappers, but it's lost that sort of edge to it, like the grittiness, the slight, the lack of audio quality that comes with homemade stuff, A lot of my podcast friends will understand that. I wanted to say thank you to the guys over at Podsocks, the Podsocks podcast. That's PODDSOCKS, and I communicate with them through Twitter, and they have a podcast. It's three guys, and they just talk about whatever's going on in the world, or they'll pick a topic and they'll discuss it from different points of view. It's not always scientifically accurate, but they more often than not get there in the end with a decent answer, with the correct answer for whatever it is that they happen to be talking about. But they said they made a joke about the secret code word, because what I was doing is actually putting the code word in the description to see whether people actually reading the descriptions, and two, there's a few people that were complaining that the code word wasn't in at the end of a few episodes, and I've done that where I've actually forgotten to provide a code word. And I hope this isn't boring people too much, because it's just me rambling. I'm just trying to get to sleep. I've got to be up in like 5 hours to do yet another 10-hour shift, and then I've got to find a way of paying my internet service provider. And there's no cough buttons, there's no mute buttons. It's just pure me. I wanted to say thank you to... anyway, they made a joke about me putting the code word in the description of the episode, but the code word is not a secret. It's just something that happens at the end of the episode. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of interactivity. It lets me know who's actually listening all the way through, and it allows me to stop and think about improving, or where I can improve the podcast and things like that. I had a message from my singular podcast Patreon supporter who said that not to wait, or not to be too perfectionist about the episodes, and not to wait and do more and more episodes more frequently. And I am going to be doing that. For those of you who are interested in supporting this podcast through Patreon, and I apologise for the references to Patreon. Some people get very upset by it. It's www.patreon.com/ELASM, and you'll see the number of Patreon supporters there. And and what happens is you can listen to the podcast through the Patreon app, and you get extra content and things like that. So what I'm going to be doing, I have done this in the past, is just include all the photos of things that I'm talking about, so that it's like an insider's edge. There's another podcast called Sizzletown, which made by Tony Martin, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's very sublime. If you can get past the crudity and like the obvious dick and fart jokes and stuff like that, you'll be pleasantly surprised. And there's a lot of running gags and things that get revisited and repackaged, but in new and interesting ways of talking about the same sort of thing. And it's very meta. It starts to refer to itself, and you've got like an ongoing storyline now with different characters and ringing up and doing different things. And just absolutely fantastic. Oh, by the way, I did get a reply tweet from Tony Martin himself, the ARIA award-winning Tony Martin, and I was actually promoting Sizzletown to somebody. And please excuse me, I've got a very sore throat. That's not the best time to be recording a podcast either, but I'll digress. Anyway, he was saying that I was advertising the Sizzletown podcast to the people that make the Love Island video game. And oh my god. And I basically said that they should check out the podcast, and it's quite funny, and that they'll get a couple of chuckles out of the Love Island references. And Tony Martin had said, while accurate, this is a poor summary of the podcast. And I didn't know whether to be offended or not. I'm honoured that he replied to the tweet. But I could have gone in depth, and I'd been promoting and being positive about Sizzletown for a while on Twitter. And you don't get a response, and I don't understand this thing where celebrities will only respond to like the negativity of like negative feedback, and I just don't get it. Like, why signal boost people that are posting stuff that you don't like? You want people to listen to your stuff. You want, I don't know. I think you should be rewarding like good behaviour, if that makes sense. So that's what I do. I just retweet, the good stuff. If people are being nasty or hostile, and I'm lucky in that I'm not big enough in any social media platform to warrant hate at any real level. You get your scammers and stuff. Oh my god, this is terrible. This is probably the worst podcast I've ever done. Actually, it's not. I've recorded podcasts during windstorms outside. But what I'm going to do is, it's coming up to 15 minutes. I'm going to save my throat and I hope that everybody has enjoyed my little ramble and stuff like that. While I'm here, I'm working at the Royal Adelaide show. So if you are in Adelaide and you've made it 15 minutes into this thing, and if you are in Adelaide and you are going to the Royal Adelaide show, come and visit me at the my goodness. Come and visit me at the Sheep Pavilion and say hello. Obviously, I've got to be working and doing that, so I can't really spend too much time talking to people, but I would be very, very honoured if you were to sort of just walk past and wave and do all that sort of stuff. It'd be absolutely fantastic. Okay. Now that I'm aware of my editing process, the ums and the ahs are actually killing me, but my throat is really, really sore. I hope to do a lot more podcasts for my Patreon supporters. What I'm doing is short 10-minute podcasts based on specific topics. And I was talking about the deep state in a previous podcast. Not the last one, but was the one before. There was a bit of feedback saying that I was out of touch with politics and things like that. But I'm pretty up to the minute, quite literally up to the minute with politics and things. That I know that there's there is a deep state in every country, a state within a state, but I'm talking specifically about the conspiracy theory made up by a certain president who shall remain incompetent and nameless. And yes, I was talking about his delusional fantasies, how he thinks that Hillary set him up. He thinks that Obama was spying on him and all this sort of stuff. You just think, oh my God. Anyway. Oh my goodness. I'm glad this isn't the worst podcast I've ever done. I could be selling little dum-dum t-shirts. Little dum-dum club t-shirts. And I don't care. They can say what they want. They can hate me if they want. That's another podcast that I thought was in Adelaide, but it wasn't. In fact, they bag Adelaide out so badly. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's not very supportive at all. Anyway, that's all from me. The code word. What should the code word be? Oh my goodness. Freelance. FREELANCE. That is the code word, freelance, and I've spelled it out for you, so there's no excuse not to use it. Please leave it in a comment somewhere, and I hope you have a better time of things than I'm currently having. Recording a podcast while you're lying on your back, or you've got a bit of a sore throat, is probably not the best idea. But I wanted to do a little bit more stuff like this so I can, I apologise for the pauses. Normally I'd cut all this stuff out and edit and whatever. I do have some absolutely fantastic stuff. I've just got to find some time to actually sit down and basically present it in a way that's palatable for a wider audience. But please do not unsubscribe to my channel, to this podcast. I will get better, I promise. Oh dear. Yep. So you got the code word is freelance, FREELANCE. I hope that you're relaxed. Oh my goodness. And you may, I don't know how much of that you can actually hear, but I've got I'm inhaling to try and get some air into my throat. Anyway, that's all from me today, and I hope you have a great week, or until I produce another podcast. I'm going to do one hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get a proper one happening, or at least record it and release it next week. But I'm with the Patreon stuff. For Patreon listeners, I'll be doing more stuff, and that will be released as I create it. So you don't need to worry about anything like that. You don't need to worry about scheduled posts. You'll get stuff early. I just got to sit down and be able to find time to do stuff. As it is, I've got to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get into the city and out again by 7 o'clock to get to the Goodwood. The Wavell Showground for the Royal Show. They're long days, and I just don't have time to socialise or do a whole lot anymore. But that's life, isn't it? I mean, the bone idle, and you've got no money, and there's nothing happening, or you flat out, you've got money, but you can't actually spend it on bills and things that you need to do, whatever, because you're actually physically working, and then you finish work after all the shops and post office and everything else is closed, but they expect you to somehow pay your bills. I don't know. If you've got a bill paying, if you get a way of paying your bills, let me know. And let me know if you're working and your hours and things like that. Is it easy for you to pay your bills online or through apps, or do you just get somebody else to pay your bills for you, like a partner or someone you're in a relationship with? That'd be interesting to find out. Anyway, that's all from me today. Look after yourselves, and I'll say goodbye for now, and hopefully my throat will get better, and hopefully this won't be as crap as I think it will be. Anyway, that's all from me today. For the third time. May today, the rest of today, and the rest of the week be easy like a Sunday morn. Bye.